we go. So hello again to everybody. Today we're going to be talking about how to choose a teacher. And first of all, what we want to start out by doing is we want to start out by asking you what you think. So how do you choose a teacher? I'm going to be monitoring all the comments, so go ahead and write. So how do you choose a teacher? You should definitely write what you think about this in the comments. And so I see that right now we have VK live right now. So if you see me, make sure you go ahead and write number 3 if you hear me in the chat. Facebook, hi, and we also have Speak In webinar app. So if you hear me on these different platforms, go ahead and write a number 3 in the chat so that I know that you're here. And it looks like VK stopped working for a second, so we'll have to reboot. In Speak In, I see there's 5 people, so I'm going to ask you guys, what do you think? How do you choose a teacher? What's the most important criteria? Anybody? How do you choose a teacher? So yeah, when you choose a teacher, you need to make sure that this teacher, knows the material. That's one of the first things. That's probably the most important, right? The most important thing is to know the material, make sure that the teacher is talking about the same things that you're talking about. And how do you know, though? For example, usually the teacher is going to teach you something that you don't know, right? So how are you going to know if this teacher is a professional in that specific sphere or in that thing that you need to learn about? How are you going to know how to choose a teacher? Well, especially when it comes to learning English, a lot of people have trouble choosing a teacher because they don't know English yet. So how can they understand if the teacher is good or not? This is the question that a lot of people ask. So feedback on this topic, first of all, so that we can get everything rolling here. What do you look for when you start, when you look for a teacher? What do you look for there? For me, when I'm looking for a teacher, I want to check out the teacher's personality. That's one of the main things that I want to see there. And when I know that the teacher has a good personality, someone who I can get along with, then it makes things way, way easier. If I find a teacher who I don't really have, I can't get along with, doesn't have a good personality, for me at least, it makes things a lot more difficult. And when I'm looking for a teacher, I want to make sure that this teacher has some kind of credentials, right? Some qualifications, something like this. So go ahead and write in the comments what you look for in a teacher and let me know. What kind of credentials might a teacher of English have? What do you think? I think that a teacher of English needs to first of all know the material. And how are we going to judge that? We're going to judge that by learning a little bit of the material ourselves. First of all, we are going to learn a little bit of our, okay, now I see all of the comments on Facebook. Sorry about that, guys. Just got there. Great. Well, so how can we understand if the teacher is good? The teacher is good when he is able to present the information to us in a way that's understandable. We need to be able to understand this guy, this teacher and how he speaks, right? We want to be able to understand that. If we can't understand him, then it's no good to us. What else? I see that Alejandro said, a teacher who knows, in my case, when Spanish people get wrong. What Spanish people get wrong? Right. I see some people wrote skills, creativity. Those are good answers too. Those are very good answers. What else? What else does a teacher do that might be good or might be bad? Should be educated, so can talk about a lot of subjects. That is a good comment. Let's see. Some other people wrote, choose the native speaking ones. So, okay, when you choose a native speaking teacher, how do you understand that that person is going to be a good teacher or not? Because, I don't know, in my experience, when I choose a native speaking teacher, I don't really understand what he's saying, right? So I don't know if he's really a professional. So this is something that can, be difficult to understand if you're a student. So what you want to do is you want to see how prepared the teacher is. If the teacher isn't prepared, it's not a good sign. It's going to be harder for you to learn from this person. And if the teacher has material already prepared for you. For example, if you just start speaking to a teacher, you can kind of test them on what they know, how prepared they are at least. I see Lek wrote, hello from Thailand, hi. Hello from Florida. We have almost the same climate, right? Lots of rain and heat here. I'm sure it's the same there, almost. So you can test the teacher. You can test the teacher by seeing how prepared they are and how much they know. Because sometimes when you ask them a question, you need to see how quickly they can come up with an answer, right? And not all people, of course, not all teachers are good at coming up with answers quickly, but probably you want to find a teacher who already answered this question 1,000,000 times so that he can answer future questions quickly and be prepared and be ready to do what needs to be done to answer this for you and to give you the information that you need. So, guys, in case you missed it, it looks like some of the platforms didn't come up immediately. So in case you missed it, right now, you can watch this webinar. We're going to talk about how to choose a teacher, things that teachers need to be prepared for, and in general, how you can understand if you meet an English teacher, if that person is a good teacher or not. And that's something really important. So looks like one of our platforms bug or something. So we're going to turn it off. Sorry about that, guys, for that little momentary pause. Great. Well, let's get back to our topic then. When we choose a teacher, this teacher needs to be able to give us the value that we want and needs to be able to do that quickly, right? So in order for the teacher to do it quickly, he needs to already know the answers. And we want him to share that with us. And actually, a lot of people don't think about this, but you do need to manage your teacher. A lot of people think that a good teacher is just someone who controls the classroom, someone who knows the material, who, you know, maybe memorized what he's teaching today, because, you know, that's a lot of what teachers today do. They just have a lesson plan and they're planning for one lesson. Of course, they have a whole curriculum or a whole system, and the system is the most important thing, the most important aspect of what the teacher is going to give you. But too many teachers don't have a system, and too many teachers prepare only for one class. That's why you want a teacher who has, you know, a lot of academic hours, a lot of hours of teaching under his or her belt. This person has a lot of experience teaching. And when you find a person like this, you're going to notice it immediately, because this person will be able to, you know, answer your questions very quickly. Plus, he'll answer in a way that has a system. So, okay, let's take example of a couple different types of teachers. I see Karina says, you're repeating your ideas over and over again. Yeah, sorry about that, Karina. You know, there's some people who are joining us in this webinar late. They just came in, and we want to make sure that they haven't missed anything. And Karina says, a good teacher is a teacher who can adapt his knowledge to students' requests. Exactly. Very, very true. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for teachers who have a system, and we're going to understand that they have a system by how they answer our questions, right? So, for example, a student who has no system will probably just answer whatever question you bring up. You might say, you know, when do I use a and when do I use an? And this lesson might not be about that at all. So if the teacher just answers this question or tries to answer this question, then this is not always a good thing that they answer your question fast. It might actually mean that they don't have any system, because a good teacher has a system, how they are going to present the information. And this system is going to help by giving you the information when you need it. Remember that just because you have a question, that doesn't mean that giving you the answer is going to help you remember it and learn it. You might need to know other information first before you learn this concept or this principle. So just because a teacher answers quickly doesn't mean that it's going to be right, doesn't mean it's going to help you. So Karina, I hope that answers some of your questions about that. I have another question here. Cami says, can a translator teach English? Sure, a translator can teach English. Anyone can teach English, really, but we want to make sure that this person has done the right training, the right education, and has experience. So it doesn't really matter what you call yourself, what job you give yourself. You could be an English teacher, you could be a translator, you could be a businessman, you could be a student. A lot of people can teach English and they can do it well. They just need to have a system. They need to have experience. And this all comes from lots of hours of teaching lots of different students. So I see Alejandra said, where is your accent from? I can understand you so well. I'm from the United States, guys. I forgot to introduce myself at the beginning, right? So it's probably good for me to go back and do that now. My name is Chris Huntley, and I have been teaching English for about 8 years. I've taught a lot of business people, you know, directors of factories, of companies like Coca-Cola, Unilever. We taught at their factory before. What else? We've taught a lot of banks. Sberbank in Russia, the biggest bank in Russia. Who else have we taught? We've taught Mitsubishi, people from that company. We've taught people from Danone. So there's lots of different companies that we've worked with, and I also have a language center in Russia where American teachers teach Russian people how to speak English. So we've been doing that for about 6 years. I see Karina has a question. Have you worked with children? Yeah, I've worked with children, and you know, some people are very good about. Some people are very good at teaching children. Some people are very good at teaching adults. I find that it's difficult to be good at teaching both. And personally, I feel like I am better at teaching adults. Adults are able to understand abstract concepts, and adults are able to have deeper conversations, so you can use things like metaphors to explain things. I find that that's very helpful. So let's see. Gorka says, your videos about phrasal verbs are very good. Thank you. Thank you, Gorka. In case you haven't seen my other videos, guys, for those of you who don't know who I am, who are just seeing me for the first time, make sure that you go to my YouTube channel. You can find it just by searching for English with Chris Americos. And if you search for English with Chris Americos on YouTube, you will definitely find a lot of videos. I have hundreds of videos there. I was doing a series about daily phrasal verbs, but now I have stopped. I've paused that. And honestly, I'm thinking about bringing it back. So let me know. Thanks for letting me know that that's interesting. Those of you guys who have written that you watch YouTube and you like this. Oh, I see that someone's also posted the link to the YouTube channel in the comments, so you can find it there. Make sure you subscribe to that channel. You can also find me on Facebook if you search for facebook.com/ let's see, it's English with Chris Americos. So it's facebook.com/English with Chris Americos, or vk.com/English with Chris. So you can find me at all of those places. And check out, there's lots of webinars that happen all the time. And you can also find me in the Speak In app. You might notice that there is a link to the Speak In app at the top of the comment section. So I see that we have some more questions here. Is somewhere live chat for English training? Yes, Thomas. I guess it's Tomas, right? Tomas, yes, there are live chats for English training. Just check out my pages, and you can find more about that. I see someone said hello from Brazil. Hello. I've never been to Brazil, but I would love to go. I have been to Argentina, and I really, really, really love South America. Such great food, especially in Argentina, such great steak. So let's see, we have another question here. Karina, a different Karina. What other languages do you know? I speak English. So there's a joke. It's an English joke, so it's not funny, of course. So I have a joke for you about this, that I only speak English, one language. People who speak two languages, they are called bilingual, right? People who speak three languages are trilingual. And people who speak one language, they are English. Because people who speak English usually don't know other languages, right? So that's a little joke, because honestly, a lot of people who I know who are English speakers, they don't really speak a lot of languages. They only speak English. So that's something that is difficult for English speakers. Around the world, lots of people speak different languages. In most countries, you need to speak at least a couple languages. And for English speakers, they usually only speak one language. It's sad, but true. I also speak a little bit of Russian. Like I told you, I have my my business in Russia, and I have been teaching there. I taught there for a few years, so I have a lot of experience with people who speak Russian. Great, it looks like we have VK on. Hey guys, how are you doing? So, Karina already said, hey, why do you keep repeating the same thing? We're gonna get to some new ideas here in a second, but I'm just gonna introduce all the people who just joined us on VK, because there's about 100 people there or more. So I just wanted to say, again, for everybody who's watching, and This video, this webinar is about how to choose a teacher. My name's Chris Huntley, and you can find me on YouTube. If you search for English with Chris and Mary Coase, you can find me on Facebook. If you search for facebook.com/English with Chris and Mary Coase, you can find me on VK. If you search for vk.com/English with Chris, and you can find me in lots of other places. Just search for English with Chris and Mary Coase. So how do you choose a teacher? What's the right way to choose an English teacher? We already said that this teacher needs to have a good personality, right? You need to like studying with this teacher. We also said that you need to be able to understand the teacher, so they need to have clear pronunciation. We actually didn't mention that before, did we? So guys on Facebook, we didn't mention that before, so make sure that you write a comment about this. Have you ever had this problem where you don't pronounce something correctly, or the teacher doesn't pronounce something in a way that you can understand? So you're listening to the teacher's explanation of something, but you don't really understand what they are saying to you. So it's hard to learn when you can't understand what they're saying. Or maybe they speak too quickly for you. I might be speaking too quickly for you right now. I see that we have a great comment on Facebook. Thalia says, "You're as good a comedian as me." Haha. Thanks for that support. Yeah, my next job is going to be comedian. But okay, Daisy wrote a comment. She said, "Hi, you said at the beginning we're going to see examples of different types of teachers." Great, Daisy. That's a great question, and let's actually talk about that a little bit more. Different types of teachers. I would say that there are 3 or 4 different types of English teachers. And when you're trying to find the right teacher for you, it's important to understand that they have several different types. The first type, I would say, is the type where he's just a native speaker and he thinks that that's enough. So really, like, no experience, no qualifications usually, no planning, just a native speaker. So right now, of course, we're talking about teachers who, hi Medina. We're talking about teachers who are native speakers and different types of those teachers, because a lot of people around the world are looking for a native speaking teacher who can really help them and actually get results for them. You know, that's what I try to do in every lesson with my students. I just had a lesson this morning, and we went through pronunciation. We went through, you know, grammar topics that he brought up and that he had trouble with. So these are things that, you know, we addressed personally for him. So categories of native speaking teachers, the native speaking teacher who's just a native speaker, who does no experience, no qualifications, this is a guy who you want to be careful of. You probably don't want lessons with this kind of guy, because he himself doesn't understand English, probably. I mean, he understands what you say in English. He understands what other people say to him in English. But as far as understanding how English works and explaining that to people who are learning English as a second language or a third language or just a foreign language in general, this is the teacher that you want to stay away from. Be careful when you find this teacher. So there's a difference between a native speaker and a native speaking teacher. A native speaker speaks English. He doesn't really know why. He doesn't know how and why he says the things that he says. But when we talk about a native speaking teacher, this person understands how the language works. This person is going to explain how some aspects or concepts work in the language and how they apply to you and how you can learn them. And he's going to give you exercises and tools so that you can practice this. So that's the first kind of teacher. The first kind of teacher is just a native speaker who's trying to be a teacher, and he's not really a teacher. The second type, I'd say this is the new native speaking teacher, or starting native speaking teacher, and you can find these all over the place. You know, like I told you, I lived in Russia for a while. I have my language center there. There's thousands of these teachers all over Russia. So basically, it's a native speaker who took a course online, probably, or maybe he took a course for like a week, and Then he came to Russia or another country. And when he got there, he started teaching English in a language center. This sounds a little bit like me, except my training course was really intense. So it was a month long, and it was all day every month. So I had some experience before I actually got in the classroom. But a lot of teachers don't have that. So, you can check out what different qualifications a native speaking teacher has. In my opinion, and remember, it's different for every teacher. Every teacher kind of can go through different kinds of training. But a lot of teachers, they do an online certification called TEFL, T-E-F-L. In my experience, people who do TEFL, and it's not anything bad about them or about TEFL in general. TEFL helps people and qualifies them. But a lot of teachers who go through TEFL online, they don't really know what they're doing when they get to the classroom in their first several months at least. And then they only progress to the next stage of being a native speaking teacher if they are able to identify those special things that will take them there. So not everybody who just gets thrown in the classroom will actually understand why some things work and why they don't. Sometimes they need someone to help them. They need someone to help them to find these things and how they're supposed to explain it to the students. So the second category we said was just a native speaker who just started, right? We talked about TEFL, which is a certificate for teachers. This is a qualification for native speaking teachers. But it's a lot easier than another one called CELTA, which is C-E-L-T-A. CELTA is from Cambridge University in England, and this is definitely a much, much better certification. This certification will help the teacher actually teach and actually know the tools that he needs to give to the students before he starts teaching them. So a TEFL teacher, I'm not saying that if you have a TEFL, if you're watching this right now, if you're a teacher, or if you have a teacher who has a TEFL, if you study with a teacher like that, I'm not saying that they're bad. I'm just saying that CELTA prepares people for teaching in the classroom better. And TEFL is a good certificate too. A lot of teachers who I work with have TEFLs. I just give them extra teacher training too, so that they actually know what to do in the classroom and why that works with students. So we talked about two types of teachers. The first one was just a native speaker. He thinks he's a teacher, he's not. The second one is someone who just has a certification and then he gets a job and just starts teaching. So no experience, right? The first is no experience and no training. The second is some training, but no experience. So the third category of teacher, and I remember myself being at this stage too, the third category of native speaking teacher of English is someone who they think that they already know everything. So this is usually somewhere around someone who's been teaching for about 6 months, a year, sometimes a year and a half, sometimes 2 years. So there's this stage that some teachers go through where they're like, I know everything. I know everything. They've got all the basics down. They understand how to explain it. So they can explain things just really, really fast. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier. Don't only think a teacher is good if he can explain things fast or if he can give you answers fast. Instead, at this period, a lot of teachers just give answers fast and they think that that means they know a lot. But really what's happening is they are able to give some information to you, but not really give you a tool so that you're able to learn it. And remember, we said that that's what we want. That's what a good teacher is going to be able to do. Help you learn that thing, not only just give you the information to answer your question. All right, let's go back to some of the comments that we got before I talk about the last categories of teachers, the ones that you want to look for. So I see Thalia wrote me. She said, personally speaking, everyone should choose a teacher who has passion for doing it. That's the key to having a successful lesson. I also do agree with you that personality is a determining factor to create good rapport with the whole class. Give them confidence, speak without feeling embarrassed or making mistakes. Excellent, excellent, excellent. I would agree with that 100%. And I see some more friends on VK came on. Hi, Vladimir. Hey, Jacob. How's it going, guys? Thanks for joining. So you guys feel free to write too and tell me what you guys think about finding a good teacher. And let's see, we have another comment here. Nobody is a teacher just because they speak a language. Teachers have to know about what it is to be a teacher. Absolutely. And so, okay, let's go back to our different categories that I was talking about, different categories of teachers and how to choose the right one. So when we talk about this, we have, the native speaker who thinks he's a teacher. We want to stay really far away from them. Then we have teachers who were recently certified or recently went through training and they just started. Those teachers are okay, just they have a long way to go. They still have a lot to learn. Then we have teachers who know everything. And by know everything, we mean they can answer your questions quickly, but they might not be able to help you remember, help you learn, give you tools that are going to stay with you for a long time. And then we have the last category. Actually, you could separate them into lots of different categories. But the last category is teachers who have a lot of experience, teachers who have a lot of they have a lot of training, not only one type. Maybe they've gone through training to get a certificate, then they've gone through training to get a job, and maybe they've gone through some professional development training, and they've been in different positions in the sphere of teaching English. So maybe they've managed other teachers, maybe they've done more than just be a teacher. This is probably the best type of teacher. This is the type of teacher that you want to find because they have a lot of experience in different areas, and they have a system. And the system that the teacher uses is the most important thing. So when you're looking for a teacher, don't look for a teacher. The first thing you should be looking for, the main thing you should be looking for, is the system of the teacher. Ask a teacher about his system. Ask a teacher about how he's going to handle, checking your homework. How are you going to handle feedback if that's going to take up class time? Ask your teacher about, how they're going to be checking your knowledge and your understanding. How often are we going to review things? How often are we going to have tests? Ask your teacher, potential teacher, right? You want to ask these questions before you decide to study with that person. Ask your teacher what experience he has, how many years he's been doing this. Ask him, what types of clients he's taught. I also see another issue with a lot of teachers. Some teachers, they go to another country, usually somewhere in Southeast Asia, and in this place, they are treated as a walking, talking English puppet. So basically, people there just think, if this guy walks around talking English all the time, we're going to learn from him. That's 100% not true. So, for example, maybe you'll have a teacher who has been in this kind of position where he was an English puppet, more or less, and instead of him getting a lot of experience and valuable knowledge in his position as an English teacher in that place, basically he just walked around and spoke English all the time. So I've interviewed a lot of these people because for my job I interview a lot of teachers. I usually get about somewhere between 50 and 100 people who apply for a teacher position every time that I advertise a position that's available. And I also work with other language centers, not only my own, to help them get a teacher that works for them, that will be good for them. And some schools, they focus mostly on children, teaching children. Some focus mostly on teaching adults. Some special interests. Some preparing people for exams. There's all kinds of different schools and companies out there. So I work with language teaching businesses to find teachers for them. And I interview a lot of teachers, and you would be surprised at some of the things that I hear. I interview teachers who tell me that they've taught for a year in China. And then when I ask them questions like, okay, so give me an example of gerund. Give me an example of present perfect. And then they draw a blank and they say, what's that? I don't know that. Then we also have another category of people who I've interviewed. I interview them, and when I get to this question where I ask them something about grammar, I remember some people don't even know what a noun or a verb is, but they're an English teacher. When I get to these questions about grammar, sometimes I ask them this question, and they tell me, you know, I'm a native speaker, Chris. I've been speaking English all my life, and I don't know what that stuff is because we don't really speak about it. And I laugh at them, and I'm like, are you joking? I don't actually laugh at them, of course. You guys know I'm more professional than that. But I laugh to myself because I'm thinking, well, honestly, guys, like, you're a native speaker, but that doesn't mean that you're a teacher. That doesn't mean you're a teacher. And a lot of people will tell me in this interview when I tell them, you know, okay, well, you have to know grammar. You have to be able to explain it to be a teacher. And they tell me, I'm a native speaker. I just speak like this. People learn from me because I just speak, and then people learn. And I tell them, like, are you serious? So, of course, I don't hire those teachers. And when I need to hire them for other language centers around the world, of course, I don't hire those teachers for other schools either, because unless your school or your language center just needs a walking, talking English puppet who just walks places and just speaks English all over the place, and you know, doesn't give any useful tools or ways that people are going to be able to understand, nobody needs that, really. Nobody needs that. So if you're just a native speaker and you're watching this, for example, then what you need to do if you want to become a teacher, you need to go out there, you need to learn how to teach, you need to get qualifications, you need to get experience. So there's a lot of people who want to study English right now. They want to study for free. They don't have a lot of money, or, you know, they haven't considered their studying so seriously to study with a teacher who's more professional. Because, you know, let's face it, teachers who have a lot of qualifications, a lot of experience, they're more expensive. I mean, you can go to my pages, you can check out what I charge to teach English. It's not cheap, and people know that. And people who have had lessons with me, they know that it's worth the money that I charge. But if you're just a teacher right now who's starting out, if you're a native speaker watching this video, then you can find students online. You can find students online who want to study for free. And, you know, maybe they don't know that you're not a real teacher, that you don't have qualifications, or you don't have any professional experience in this. But that's okay. A lot of people are looking to talk about anything in English. They just want experience talking in English. And if you're a native speaker, you can do that. And at the same time, you can build up some experience teaching people. So that's a good way to start. I'm going to go back to some of the comments here because there's a lot of them. I think you could also talk about English schools. I'm from Brazil, and I've been taking English classes at a school that I think doesn't know how to choose good teachers. Paula, let's see, Joyce wrote that. Yeah, Joyce from Brazil, hi. So, good question, a good comment. And I'm sure that in every country you have these kinds of teachers and you have these kinds of schools. It's really hard, honestly, for schools to understand which teachers are going to perform well, which teachers actually know what they're talking about. And I can tell you, Joyce, that most schools around the world don't ask any kind of questions about grammar or anything else when they interview teachers. So when they interview teachers, what they're looking for is someone who is just willing to work for the money that they're offering. I mean, that's important, of course, in any business, but this is like a main criteria for them. It doesn't matter if the teacher is actually going to be effective. It's you know, we just need a native speaker there. And if this is happening at the school that you go to in Brazil, it's sad, but you know, there's a way to correct it. They just need to set up a system. Again, it's all about the system. They just need to set up a system that is reliable so that they have the best teachers trying to work for them. I mean, that's what we've done with my school in Russia. We have people writing us all over the place, like all the time. I mean, people are just writing and writing and writing and always applying for a job. And this allows us to be very selective. And when we are able to be selective, we're able to look specifically for what we need and find specifically teachers who fit the criteria that is important for us. Wow, I see that in the Speak In app, we have a ton of comments. So great. I'm going to answer some of the comments from our Speak In app. If you guys haven't checked out Speak In, definitely look for it. You can find it on Facebook. You can find it on VK. They automatically connect. It's really convenient. And I'm sure you can just Google Speak In application, speak with native speakers, talk with teachers. So yeah, so this is just a great platform. So I'm going to answer some of the questions there. So it says, let's see, I tend to teach and ask all the aspects: grammar, vocabulary, listening, and even writing essays. Yes, that's very important. Every teacher of English needs to be able to cover different aspects, and not only, you know, the core aspects like what we're talking about here, like vocabulary, listening, writing, and speaking. Speaking is the one that most people have trouble with, because, and that's why you want a native speaking teacher, right? And you want a native speaking teacher because this person is going to help you with pronunciation and speaking. If you don't need to learn speaking, if you don't need to learn pronunciation, if you need to learn other things, then a lot of times you can go to a teacher who's not a native speaker. They might not know things as well as a native speaker does, but don't be scared when that happens, because honestly, there are more important things to worry about. Let's see, we say, what do you think about people who can't pronounce all the words well? Well, a teacher who can't pronounce the words well, it's difficult, because you know, you want the teacher to speak very fluently, like a native speaker, even if they're not a native speaker. But like I was just saying, native speaking teachers are really good when you're trying to improve your pronunciation and your speaking skills. But if you want to learn grammar, sometimes a teacher who speaks the same language as you will be able to explain it to you better. And remember, I said sometimes, not all the time. And I'm also reminding you that studying with a native speaker is not always the best choice. So, for example, sometimes people come to me. I'm a native speaker, and I'm a certified, qualified teacher, lots of experience, taught professional people, professional topics, business English, general English, English for kids, English for teenagers. I've taught it all. You know, I've designed programs. I have a whole system for teaching people and for managing teachers and different things like this. So this is something I've gone through before. I'm a native speaker, and sometimes I get students who don't know anything. They're complete beginners. And even though I speak their language, if they're Russian, I speak Russian. I mean, I'm not the best person in the world, but I speak this language. So even though I speak this language, I still tell them, nope, you can't study with me. Because I know they're not going to get the results that they want. I know they're not going to get the results that they want fast enough. So they need to study with another Russian teacher. They need to study with someone who's going to be able to engage them. That's important. Your teacher needs to engage you. Is going to be able to engage them in the right way, so they're going to be able to make progress and to get results faster. So that's a good concept that we need to kind of repeat here, is that although a teacher might get you some results, is the teacher getting you the results fast enough? And this really, really, really brings me to an important point that I want to talk about. So I see that there's a bunch of comments coming up right now. I'm going to answer these comments, and then I'm going to tell you probably the most important thing that you need to know about choosing a teacher. So let's see these comments. What is the best way or manner to learn English correctly and pronounce words like native speakers? Great question. First of all, First of all, I have to tell you that if you go to any of my pages, Facebook, VK, YouTube, Instagram, wherever, you'll find a link to a special program that I have going on right now where I'm going to be teaching people how to sound like a native speaker. Really teach people how to sound like a native speaker. I've spent months and months and months working on it, so it's definitely going to work for you. But let me just give you a little bit of that information now, so that you don't have to wait for that. You can just get all the information there, and right now I'll tell you a little bit about it. So one of the most important things you can do right now to start sounding like a native speaker, learn vowel sounds. Learn what vowels sound like in English, and really listen to them. Really listen to them. Like, you probably haven't heard them before. You probably haven't listened to them in depth before. First of all, listen to how vowels sound. Vowels, in case you don't know what those are A, E, I, O, U, sometimes Y. In English and in any other language, vowels are the things that create accents more than anything else. So if you pronounce your vowels correctly, you're going to greatly reduce your accent in English. Another thing that you can do is listen for blending. Listen for blending. So when someone says, what are you doing? For a native speaker, that sounds like really strange. Why is he talking so weird, you know? Because you're saying all of the words very correctly. One of the things that you need to do if you want to sound like a native speaker is you need to speak incorrectly. Native speakers don't speak correctly all the time. They make mistakes. They use slang. They shorten words. They change how words sound. So if you listen to how words are being blended together by native speakers, it'll really allow you to start sounding way more natural. Let's take the same example. What are you doing? Sounds very robotic. Sound like a robot. Sound like a weirdo. Just sounds strange, unnatural. But instead, most people will say something like, what you doing? What you doing? Or, what are you doing? What are you doing? So these are some of the, this is just one phrase, one question, and this is about blending. This is something that we'll talk more about in my Speak Like a Native Speaker or English Hacks program that you can find on any of my pages, VK, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you go, you're going to find some information about this. So, I'm not going to talk about that too much here because this isn't the place and time for that. But if you want to learn more about how to speak like a native speaker, go there. But right now, let's go back to, back to the questions and comments. I see another question. Jonathan from Dominican Republic. No, it doesn't matter if you are a native speaking teacher if you don't go to school to learn the former way of learning how to teach others. You hit the nail on the head. Thank you. Jonathan, that's 100% correct. And even if you're a native speaker, if you don't have training in teaching English as a foreign language, it's not going to help. And even people who learn English themselves, like non-native speaking teachers of English, they still need to learn that stuff. They still need to learn the process. This is called pedagogy. And they need to, have some kind of pedagogical education, at least, so they understand what it is to teach, how people learn, things like this. Great, let's see. Tomas says, we had a bad teacher at school. First lesson, we had to translate without explanation, pronunciation. We had vocabulary, we looked for words, it was a waste of time. And unfortunately, lots of people around the world have been in that same situation. The traditional grammar translation method of teaching English, sorry guys, it doesn't really work. So because we don't have a lot of time here, where we've been having this call for a while already, we have about 10 minutes left that I'm going to be doing this call, this webinar, and just want to get back to what I told you I was going to share with you guys. And that is the most important thing to remember or to know when you're looking for a native speaking teacher. or any teacher for that matter. Great. So are you ready? I'm going to tell you. The most important thing that a teacher can do for you, the most important thing to look for when you're choosing a teacher. Are you ready? Find a teacher who doesn't want to teach you forever. I'm going to repeat that. Find a teacher who does not want to teach you forever. A teacher who wants to teach you forever is just giving you some information now. Later, you're going to forget it. And then you're going to come back. And if you like that teacher, if you like that teacher's personality, if you like what they did, if you had fun in the classroom, you're going to come back to them. And they know that. And remember, we talked about 4 categories of teachers. One is just a native speaker. The second has some training but no experience. The third has more training and some experience but thinks he knows everything and doesn't improve. And the fourth is someone who has experience in all different types of spheres and is still improving themselves and always learning and always growing. So that third type of teacher or second type of teacher might actually get you to do this, might give you some useful information and say, hey, I helped you, and now you should know English. And when you forget, come back and I'll teach you again. No, guys, the teacher that you want is the teacher who's going to set up a system for you, a system that's going to make it easy for you to teach yourself later. He's setting up the tools that you need to learn now and tools that you need to be successful later. When you have this system, you're going to be able to go to the internet, find different resources that are free, and use them to teach yourself. So, understand it like this. You can buy a car that's going to go 1,000 kilometers and then break. You can buy a car that's going to go 5,000 kilometers. You can buy a car that'll go 50,000 kilometers. But if you want to buy a car that is going to take you all the way from point A to point B, from where you are now to where you want to be in your knowledge and abilities of English, you need a teacher who is going to give you skills that you're going to be able to learn. So he's not going to sell you a car. He's going to sell you how to build a car, how to make your own car, how to drive. So that's a more valuable skill. That's what you can learn. So before you go out and spend your money on a teacher, ask those questions that I was telling you about. Ask about the teacher's system. Ask about the teacher's experience. Ask about different types of students the teacher has had. And if you want to find a really good teacher, then make sure that you really get some information about what the lessons are going to be like, the structure, and how you're going to be able to use what you get in the class, in the lessons, how you're going to be able to use your time that you spend with the teacher in person, how you're going to be able to use that to create your own system for studying the language later. That is really one of the most important things that you can do when you are searching for your teacher. So in case you guys missed it, the most important thing that you can do when you're looking for a teacher, native speaker or other teacher, and it's not only about English, it's about any type of teacher. Find a teacher who's going to build a system with you so that you don't have to study with them forever. So you study with them, one period of time, you decide how long you're going to study, what skills you're going to be learning about, and they set up a system for you. So that after that lesson or in the future when you want to learn about that topic, sure, of course you could go back to that teacher if you wanted, but a good teacher is going to already tell you how you should be learning that in the future. So, do you understand what I'm saying, guys? If you want to learn English and you want to find the best teacher to teach you English, find a teacher who's going to teach you how to learn. Find a teacher who's going to teach you how to study. If you make mistakes while you're speaking with the teacher and the teacher doesn't correct you, that doesn't help you. And if you make mistakes in learning during a lesson, the teacher needs to correct you on that also. Mistakes in learning might be things like, you're not taking notes, or maybe you're not completely listening. It doesn't mean that the teacher has to be strict. It doesn't mean the teacher needs to be a jerk. It doesn't mean the teacher needs to be rude to you. Teacher just needs to lead you to success. The teacher needs to show you the right direction so that you can go down this path, you can get the result that you want, and you have more control of your result. When you have control of your result, it's going to end up being way cheaper for you in the end, right? If we're talking about money and value. So if you want to save money, find a good teacher at the beginning so you don't have to spend money all the time on finding another teacher or repeating the same things with the same teacher. Find a teacher who's going to set up a system for you. So guys, we're almost out of time, and before we finish this call, I'm just going to answer the questions and comments. So anybody who's just joining now, this video will be available for replay on my VK page. My VK page is vk.com/English with Chris. Chris, that's K-R-I-S, because when I'm on here, I'm using the name Chris Americos. So search for English with Chris, and you'll find a lot of material. I have a lot of free stuff on YouTube. Just search for English with Chris Americos, and you're going to find hundreds of free videos. And actually, before everyone leaves this webinar and these live videos on all these platforms, who out there watched my phrasal verb videos? If you guys didn't, that's okay. I'll tell you a little bit about what that was. I used to make phrasal verb videos every day. Once a day, one video. And I thought that a lot of people, might get a lot of use out of that, but I didn't see a lot of people subscribing to my channel. I didn't see a lot of people, commenting on the videos or sharing the videos, so wasn't sure. So leave me a comment right now and write if you actually watched that series of videos. Every day, I gave you a new phrasal verb, and you can see all those videos on my YouTube channel right now, 100% free. Just go there. You can use them with your students if you're a teacher. One phrasal verb a day definitely helps people learn English because it's only one, and you don't get overloaded. So I'm telling you about this. I'm reminding you about this because right now I have somewhere around 4,000, 4,500 subscribers, followers, whatever you call them, on YouTube. And I'm telling you that if I get to 5,000 let's say in the next week, if I get to 5,000 subscribers in the next week, so if you guys all go out there and subscribe, then I'm going to bring back the daily phrasal verbs series. So I'll make a video every day again. I don't remember. I think I have probably about 5 months of videos left. I planned all of them. I have a whole year of topics there. I only recorded about half. So subscribe, and if I get up to that number, I'm going to start the daily phrasal verbs again. So go check that out. Also on Facebook, you can find me, facebook.com/English with Chris Americos. So yeah, now I'm going to get back to answering some of the comments. Let's see. Masad said, what is your nationality? I'm from the United States. I'm American. I've lived in a lot of different countries. I lived in Germany, Italy, Russia, and different parts of the United States, like Ohio, Hawaii, Florida, Rhode Island, lots of different places. American. So I have an American accent, and if you can understand me or can't understand me or don't like it or like it, guys, that's where I'm from. So that's why I speak like this. And yeah, if you're interested in sounding more like a native speaker, whether that's British English or American English or any other type of English, guys, go to the pages, go to my Facebook, go to my VK, go to my YouTube, go to my Instagram. And first of all, subscribe to that channel because I'm going to be releasing a lot of useful content like I always do. And second of all, check out that program that I have coming soon where I'll teach you how to sound like a native speaker. It doesn't matter if you're learning English, American English, or British English. I'm going to be helping you with all of that because you just need a system to learn how to understand it and how to make those sounds. So back to the comments. I go to bed at 9 o'clock in the evening. Okay, good night. Thanks for joining our video and thanks for the comments. Let's see, on Speak In, we have turn on your mic. If you read the comments, find a t-shirt. Okay, guys, these guys are having a lot of fun over here on the Speak In app. It's definitely a place that you guys want to check out. And there's a lot of webinars over there in English. Lots of English teachers hang out there. So go check out Speak In. Great. And guys, you know, that's about it. We're pretty much out of time. Make sure you watch the replay if you're just coming in now, if you missed it. If you know somebody who you think that this information would be beneficial to, share this video, send this video to your friends, and also make sure that you tell people about my pages, you know, VK, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. There's lots of free stuff there. I'm always trying to help people learn English better. And also, if you are a manager or an owner of a language teaching business, so like a language center, an English school, anywhere in the world, send me a message because I have a special deal for you, right? I told you guys about how I basically do HR services for these language teaching businesses, and I find teachers to teach at their schools and language centers. And also, if you are just starting a language center, or if you want to start a language center, or you want to start your own language teaching business, I also can help you with that too. Just find me on one of my pages and send me a message. So guys, I'm gonna have to turn off the videos now. I've been saying it a few times, but that's about it. And thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for the comments. And I'll see you guys next time. If you want to know when the next webinar is going to be, go to my pages. I have a schedule of webinars. I have plans for all the next things that are going to happen. So just go there, subscribe to the page, and you'll get information. You can also go to my website, which is english.chrisamericos.com, and there you'll find out more information, you know, about what's happening, new things that are happening. You can subscribe to my mailing list, and you'll get information sent right to your email. So thanks again to everybody who joined us today, and you know, be looking forward to the next webinar. So take care and have a great day, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are. All right, see ya.